Hey, my name is Eliska Albrigtsen and I'm the head coach of cross country and skiing here at UAF, University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I'd like to talk to you about fundamental ski position, also called fundamental athletic body position. So the general notion of it is that because it's fundamental athletic body position, it is good position for any sport to start with. So in general, it's kind of over here, it's active, it's a little bit lower center of gravity, center of mass. So for general sports, you kind of want to be here, right? And it gives you the ready to go kind of position. So for skiing, what we adopted from that is the fall forward, the ready to go, right? But we're most of the time on one leg only. So we go from here to over here. That's our fundamental ski position, right? So what's so interesting about it is that this position is very active but also resting. You have all the angles aiming forward, but you are using your bone structures and your joints to actually rest. So a common issue with this position is that you're not resting in it and then you're working harder, right? So if you're not resting, if you can take the shot from the side now. So right now I have my hip over my knee over my toe, and then my body and my shin are under the same angle falling forward, right? So if I'm on a ski, I can keep gliding like this, and just because I'm aiming forward, I'm gonna be actually still gliding forward. And then I'm using my back leg kind of as a counterweight to my upper body, right? So if I bend the leg, do you see what it does to my body? I lose that angle over here, so I use it up there. So I'm basically resting in this position, and you see I'm standing decently comfortable in it, right? That's because I use my thigh bone here to be nice and straight, perpendicular to the ground. So my joints are hanging on it. I don't have to use that muscle that much, right? If I'm not in the correct position, if my leg is lowered or if my hips are in the back, I'm actually in a squat right now, right? So the bone structure doesn't help us in this position, and I actually have to be squatting. You might be able to see my thigh doing much more work, and you can see I'm not comfortable in this position, and it's even hard to balance. What I also lost with dripping my hips in the back is the position of the shin really forward. So back again, this is where we want to be, right? That's the fundamental ski position. And the weight of your body is kind of on the ball of the foot, just kind of where the knee would drop down, and the hips. So that's kind of where you want to be with the line. So why is this position so important? It is coming from what we call PAL, posture, arms and legs, motion chain, where you first have to have good posture with your center of mass, which is around this area, and then your arms and your legs adjust based on that. So you kind of already saw that, right? When I was doing it wrong, my legs already adjusted poorly and my arms were kind of shrunk down. If I go nicely into it, it really gives me a good posture for my body, for my core, for my legs and my arms over here. Yeah. So common problems with this are, as we talked about, the hips being too back. So then we're actually working too hard, we're not resting. And then also not having that comfortable C shape, so we can use our core better, but having almost a S shape. And you can easily say, if you're doing this, that your lower back will start hurting pretty early on. So a good fix is using the core, kind of like someone tries to push you in the belly, or even from the sides. If you poke your fingers into the sides, you have to poke against them with your belly, with your transverse abdominals, and then you're in a good position. So what I like to imagine is kind of like an arrow shooting from through your butt cheek and coming from your groin. So right here is that arrow, right? And it's really the work of different exercises that you can do outside of the FSP to get more used to being in it. For example, you know, bouncing ball with a jump. Right now when I jump, I get my hips forward with that, or the double pole with rubber bands backwards. As I pull forward, I can actually lean into the rubber bands and get myself into that falling forward position, like in double pole on the snow. Those are kind of good ways to practice it, to get comfortable with falling forward. It's obviously harder in summer when you're on roller skis, because no one wants to fall on roller skis, but really in winter we should all be pushing ourselves to that good hip forward, falling forward position, because if we fall on the snow, especially in low speed, it's usually pretty safe, and it's always better to fall on your face than on your back, because you're skiing like this. And then another important part, really important part about fundamental ski position, as I talked about it, is the resting part, right? So when we stride, the stride happens really quick, and then we're gliding for quite a long time. So if you don't have a good resting position in the FSP, if you're, you know, around here, then you're constantly working. Your muscles don't get any rest, they don't get the blood return, so you're creating more lactate than you would need to. So if you get into the resting position, then you can actually ski almost 3 times less, or like work 3 times less than if you're not in it correctly. So as Nordic skiing is all about efficiency, having the efficient body position, the fundamental athletic body position, fundamental ski position is really the most important part. So that's another problem, that a lot of athletes try to be perfect, and for some reason in our heads perfection is here, right? It's all tight, it's here. So we see a lot of young skiers that were told hips up instead of doing this, right? They go into this, and then they double fall with their straight knees. There always have to be that micro bend in an ankle, in a knee. It kind of stays at the same angle, it doesn't move much off. It's just always there. It's the gentle spring that we create with those 3 joints that catches the irregularities of the surface, so we can ski on uneven surfaces like snow, or even sometimes asphalt. So if you have the leg straight, again, you don't have any blood return. You probably remember when they told you in a choir not tightening your knees so you don't pass out. It's the same problem. So we want to stay nice and loose so the blood can flow and refresh our body, and we can keep going for a longer time. Another problem with the straight knee is that if you don't have that good shin angle or ankle angle, and plus you're using your hips in the back, what can happen is that you actually start pulling too much weight on your shins when you're gliding, or this happens mostly in skating. So in skating, instead of being here, that's our fundamental ski position for skating, right? It's just the same, here we go, but sideways with the V shape. So instead of being here, they would be here, and then that's putting so much force onto the shin, and we see people getting not just shin splints but chronic compartment syndrome, and that is a really big problem. So, you know, instead of being here, we really want to bring the knee forward and the hip over it. Yeah. So that's I think where it's important from the health perspective. Yeah, we have to be careful about twisting versus thrusting. We always want to be thrusting, because when we start twisting, we stopped using the core, right? Our core for skiing can be considered from top here all the way down to our knees, sometimes even lower. And when we start twisting in the body, so if I'm standing here and I'm bringing the hip forward instead of thrusting it, if I twist into it, you can see what happens with my back leg, right? It twists off instead of staying in there. It also doesn't give me that impulse because I'm not actually moving the body, the center of mass, forward. You see, when I do that, it throws me forward. But if I twist, it doesn't throw me anywhere, it twists me around, right? So it doesn't give us the same efficiency, plus it takes the work of the core off. So again, we can have back pain with that. And especially for skating, we lose the strengthening of the transverse abdominal muscles with the obliques, right? Because we would be, I can't even do it doing that. Yeah, so that's why it's important.